Well, guys, BATJAC J.W. here. Yes, we're live this time. Radio show is live. This is the first time we've done a radio show that is live, so it won't be very long. So apologize for that, but it is pretty neat. Anyway, Saturday morning here, and of course we are live, and we'll find out here. Let's see. You know, I don't remember actually how all of this works, so bear with me. We've only gone live actually a few times, and usually sometimes it's a lot of it's spare the moment kind of thing. And I know we've entertained the idea of actually going live for a Saturday morning some time back. Santi and I actually entertained the idea, and we really wasn't sure on how it all worked. And that was the thing. That was something I was really concerned with. I said, I don't really. I told him, I said, Santi, I don't know how this works. I really don't know how to do it because I'm not a tech savvy person. I with this day and age is just really crazy to me because I guess I'm just too analog. I'm too analog for a lot of this stuff. I just because I didn't grow up with all this stuff. I grew up riding my bike and going and playing in the woods with my friends and VHS tapes. So, K Hill says, Hi, thank you. How are you doing? I hope I'm saying your name right. I apologize if I pronounce anybody's name wrong. But, okay. Anyhow, yeah, Saturday morning out here. Yeah, actually, for interesting enough, there's actually a gun show this weekend. Clint says, Good morning. Good morning, Clint. There's actually a gun show this morning going on. So I'm not there. I'm actually here doing a live show. Uh, but speaking of gun shows, I wanted to actually talk about it. Am I the only guy out there that goes to a gun show looking for knives? Although there's been some stuff where I've gone to gun shows with a purpose of finding a gun. It's been rare, but I have done it. It's actually more or less neat for me now just to kind of go and check it out and see all the overpriced stuff because uh, I've noticed that from time to time you go there and you look and you're just like, wow, this is the same. This is the same table with the same stuff. Uh, I remember seeing a guy. He had a bunch of high powers. For me, that's like, ooh, a high power. Let's go check that out. Uh, so I went over to his table and I started looking at them, and none of them were actually the Browning high power. So it was like, oh, okay, well, what's this then? Yeah. So I looked at it, and it was like, oh, this is the FEG, and that's the Hungarian model. And at one time, it says sometimes the knives are the part. Yeah, I got some knives here that I scored at the gun show. I'll show you. But this the FEG high powers. I remember this was probably I don't know 7 years ago when I was doing my shop and selling guns on the island. I I remember seeing you could buy these FEG high powers off of like Gunbroker for like $250. Um, I don't know. It's crazy how much time goes by and prices just go to the roof. But you could, and they were decent. I had one. I sold it stupidly. I should have kept it. I think we all have a few of those. But I I had I had one. I paid about $300 for it, something like that. And they're great pistols. But now, when I go over his table and I see this fella, he's got some, and he's selling them for $700, and I'm thinking, uh, for me, I remember that's why I bought an FEG was because I didn't want to pay $700 for the Browning. Um, Anyway, needless to say, I've been to several of the shows that are in the same location usually, and it's like the same table, the same guy. It's there, and he's still got the same FEG high powers. Uh, but that's the thing is just sometimes you gotta laugh at some of the stuff where it's just like I don't think they really want to sell it. I think they're just sitting there and you're just they might be hoping for that one guy that comes around that says that maybe visiting from another state and says, oh wow, look, there they are. I can never get them where I'm at, and now I can. For $700. That's a good price. Actually, there is something to be said about that, depending on where you're at. Uh, I know I got some subscribers that are over in California, and they cannot find for the life of them vintage Smith and Wesson wheel guns, any kind of old revolvers. They can't. It's just I don't know what it is. Just they're just not around. You can't really get them, and I think a lot of it has to do with the politics over there. But like for instance, like for me, when I was living out there in Hawaii, I really wanted a Winchester 97 shotgun, the hammer shotgun. Just really wanted one. Movies like The Wild Bunch and of course Steve McQueen and Bullet. Just I've always wanted one. So I remember when I was searching around out there and kind of entertaining the idea to buy one. When I heard some numbers being thrown at me like $800 because it's an old shotgun and it's worth money and it's a Winchester and blah 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 blah. The whole talk up. Um, I just couldn't. I could not see myself spending that kind of cash on a shotgun, uh, especially something like that. You're not. I mean, you're not talking about a modern age. All the bells and whistles. Wilson Combat scattergun technology. Something. You're just not talking about that. You're talking about something that's fairly worn out, and you're not going to really want to. I mean, you're going to shoot it, but you're not. It's not going to be something like you're going to go to the range and it's not going to be your workhorse. So I just said no way. Anyway, it's funny because I always thought was this a kind of a joke on me that maybe the powers that be were paying, but yeah, I came out to the desert, and I swear every pawn shop I walked into, they had several of them. It was just everywhere, and I wound up picking up one for like $200. It's just because they were just everywhere. They just, in fact, the guy at the pawn shop where I bought it, he said, "Look, name your price because I've got so many of them. I don't know what to do with them." So, yeah, I just thought that was funny. So it kind of goes through. It depends where you're at, of where what can be found. Maybe out here, Winchester 97 shotguns are plentiful. Somewhere else, like in Hawaii, they're not. Nobody, you can't get them. So it just guess it depends where you're at, and that could be. So you have a gun show and you have a table full of stuff, and you put a high price tag on it, hoping you're gonna find that guy that says, "Oh, I'm visiting. I could buy that because where I'm at, that would cost me twice as much, or I can't even find that." So that could be that too. But I remember one time I actually went to a gun show with the sole purpose to find a Smith and Wesson Model 19 Schnubby, and this actually was just recently posted on a video on the channel. Uh, I've been heard that from a lot of people they call them the Cadillac of the Snubbies. I don't know, how much of that to be true, but I gotta admit, it's a pretty darn well built, hefty, sexy, everything. Oh, no, I shouldn't have said that, but it's a cool piece. It really is, and it's actually been in a few movies, which is neat. Uh, yes, it is pretty sweet, isn't it, Clint? In fact, Clint Eastwood has the 66, which is the stainless version, in The Gauntlet. If you haven't seen The Gauntlet, that's a really cool movie. He directed that with his then girlfriend, Sandra Locke, which who passed away sadly last year, I believe it was. That really sad when these old amazing actors and actresses pass away, especially like when Lauren Bacall passed away, because like Key Largo is one of my favorite Humphrey Bogart and Bacall films. But this is really cool because it has been, I think even It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the TV show. I haven't actually seen it really, but I know Danny DeVito has one of these, and so does in American Gangster. Josh Brolin his character carries one of these. This is the old classic cop gun. I actually did want to get the kind of K-frame Magna grips or Magnum grips or something like that for it, just for fun. I mean, I don't know all the proper terminology, but it is the round butt. So they sell a much more larger grip. So yeah, KL says nice, love it. It is really cool. And I remember when I picked this up at the gun show, the guy had a different set of grips on him. He didn't have the original Smith grips. I said to him, I was kind of doing the old kicking tires number on him. It's all about the art of the deal. I asked him if he had the original grips, and he did. So he actually went over and got them and threw them on there. So that was really cool. Because I told him, I said I want the original grips. I didn't want the ones that he had on there because they weren't the original. Because these are, and that's the thing, guys. If you're going out there and buying these old vintage revolvers and whatnot, make sure they have the original grips, because if they don't, bear in mind, if are in a collector's state, sick boy. I just picked up a model 629. Watched a lot of your videos prior to buying it. Oh, sorry, hang on, wait. How do I bring those back? There they are. Watch a lot of videos where I'm addicted to the recoil. No specials, all home loaded. The full, yeah. You know what? Actually, that's why I did a video that I did. Was a range video that we were doing, and I actually shot a bunch of magnums out of it, and it was just because I've always heard that people go, "Oh, you shoot the magnum, will blow your wrist apart," but it's just not true. But anyway, the original grips are very important to have on these things, especially on a collector's piece, especially the older ones, because in some cases, which is so ridiculous, in fact, speaking of the 29, if you try to go look for end frame 29 style grips, the old original grips, uh, I could recall many years ago buying them on eBay and paying almost $100 a pop. Now I'm sure they're even more. I remember seeing when I saw Colt Python grips go for like three, almost 400 or 500 bucks. I thought that's insane. So that's another thing. If you're looking for a Colt Python, make sure it has the original grips, because if not, that's a $300 easy deduction. Let me ask. Uh, what's that? I'm sorry. These things pop up on my screen on my phone. I gotta read them quickly here. Let me ask: are wad cutters effective for self-defense? Interesting enough, I just started to mess with wide cutters myself, and I'm talking about the full. I don't know what I call them the full wide cutter, because you always see semi-wide cutter or whatever. Mine are the full-on hollow base wad cutter that are seated all the way down to flush into the casing. Um, Now the fella that I go to this mom and pop shop to buy this stuff. I was talking to him. He's been a loader for a long time. He said actually, if you turn the wad cutter around, where the hollow base is on the top, and it goes, he said it actually can be pretty effective, because you're talking about a giant hollow cavity. The thing about wad cutters, though, from my understanding, and I played around with a couple of different loads with them, is they're supposed to be fairly light loaded. Now I've been loading my stuff with like red dot shotgun powder and a really light charge, and getting a really nice smooth recoil on them, just enough to punch the paper. So I don't know about upping that charge, because that bullet seats so far down in that casing, and then it minimizes that space you got. So you don't want to like have an accident and do the old Wile E. Coyote on yourself. I got a couple other comments here. Let me see. Texas Troy 78 says, "BATJAC, enjoy your channel and work with the Arizona Ghost Riders. Do you have any opinion on lever action rifles, caliber preference, brand? I'm looking at a Henry and Winchester in 357." So I used to have a Rossi that was a copy of the Winchester 92 or 94 or something like that. Now, I like, for me, growing up watching all the westerns and seeing the shells throw straight up the top and of course land on a cowboy's hat and roll off. That had a lot to do with it for me. And then of course loading the gate. Now I like Henry. I used to have a Henry 22, but the thing I don't like about Henrys is they're tube fed, which really wasn't going to be correct to the way that it takes away from that cool factor of loading them through that loading gate. And then of course they don't top eject. So that's for me, my opinion on it. I like the top eject stuff and the loading gate because it's just that classic, iconic look when you watch the old movies, especially like the Duke, and you just that there's just something iconic about that. Now, I was told. I mean, this is just something I was told from the old man at the shop that I go to. He's been shooting cowboy action for many years. He says that the reason they don't use Henrys is they don't hold up well. He says Henrys are good for plinking around, but he said they don't hold up. So I don't know. That's that thing. That's what he said. In fact, where I work, we just brought in a Henry 4570. It looked pretty darn cool, but I do kind of stick to that classic look. That's just myself. So, all right. Sick Boy. He says he owns a Model 65, bought it in '82. When I got on the job, I immediately replaced the grips with Packmeyer grips and replaced the just replaced the with grips with originals. Cost me $90. Yeah, worth it. And actually, I actually started looking at Altmount. I think I'm saying that right. They actually, I've been gonna think about buying a set of grips from them because they make the old original Coke bottle grips for the end frame 44. That looks really cool. So I think I can get one of those from them. Sick Boy says in my 44 mags I run 24.2 grains of H110. I used to use the H110 and low 30 carbine. Good stuff. Whoops. What is this? Same here. That's why I don't like Henrys. I need the loading gate. That's true. You gotta have them eject onto the cowboy hat. Yeah, that's right, Texas Troy. Especially if you're gonna be in Texas. But yeah, I just always was it like is it the train robbers where the guy from above is shooting down at the guys and he's just running his lever gun? I think you even see a shell hit his hat and roll off. But yeah, that's the cool factor is you're watching the shells pop up, especially if you got something like a 45 Colt, where they're big old pieces of brass. That's what attracted me so much to the 45 Colt, was just the big hunking piece of brass. That is so cool. He's a loading gate open up on that single action. You see him punch out, and it's just like, wow, that's really cool. And as somebody that loads, and that's the thing I know. I hand loaded most of everything right down to the very first time I bought a 1911, and I saw the price on 45 ACP. I said, "There's no way I'm going to buy this stuff from the store. I'm going to be loading it, that's for sure." So immediately started looking into all this, on the lead and everything, and the dies to start loading it. Same with 45 Long Colt. I think I bought one box, and that was like it was probably 9 years ago. Bought one box, and I only bought it for the brass, really, because at the time I was just getting started doing a lot of the loading and everything. So I kept the brass, and you know what? And a lot of that brass I've kept and loaded so many times where it really hasn't split on me. Of course, then again, I'm not loading these things like to the full-on, powerful spectrum of loads for them. But the 45 Colt is so expensive. It really is. I mean, you're talking, it's up to, in some cases, it can be $50 a box. It just depends where you're at. But now of course, I bought a whole bunch of brass over time later on, and that's it. And just kept loading it. One gun I do miss that I got rid of, but it was all right. But I should have kept it in a way, but I think at the time I needed the money. I had a Model 25 Smith & Wesson. It was a mountain gun in the shop, the 45 Colt rounds. in a in a tilt out cylinder and everything. But it was neat. But then again, there was something about it that where I was like, if I feel like if I'm playing with 45 Colt, I should be playing with a single action. So, but I went to like I said, I've been going to gun shows, and one of the things that I picked up, and these actually came from the same guy, the same seller. These are original Rizzuto 1950s push button switchblade knives, and the cool thing about them is the guard. The guard is that classic. It kind of it folds down with it. I originally got into hand loading due to my Winchester rifles, three, 1889, 1873, 1901, 1894. I'll use the 3840. you know, that's from Sick Boy there. I want to get a 3840 in a single action just because the way the round looks. That is so neat, and I want to load it. That's it. I just want to load it because it looks so cool. But yeah, this is an old original one. I bought this off a guy, and I've looked them up. They are collectible. Now this one I don't. It's actually like a 40 caliber bullet. That's really cool. Yeah, like I said, I really want to load that cartridge. But these are actually collectible, and they're the classic Hollywood switchblade that you would have seen from the late 70s, 80s, and whatnot. They used them. Now, the reason why they're collectible is because these things actually are not made very well, and they pretty much fell apart. I don't actually fire this one up or close it up and fire it because it is old and it's worn and it's still in working condition, and I want to keep it that way. But it's just that iconic look. I also got another one that's same from the same seller, which has got the white handles on it, and it's got the bat wing guards. And this one actually has been worked on to where it will work. Actually had its internal parts worked on and everything. I may call the guy and actually have him do that to that one. I may do it. Ask him how much it would cost. But here, this one works, and it works fairly well. Of course, I don't abuse it and start, just over and over and over. Some people do that, and they weren't made for that. they were just made for deployment, a few times here and there. But I like them for the aspect of the cool factor, because growing up watching all those old school movies, I always felt like they captivated the scene. Every time they popped out, they're just kind of like that scene stealer in a sense. It's just really cool. So it's kind of why I like them. Sick Boy says, I love automatic knives. I have many of the Microtechs, out the front Microtechs. Those are cool, man. Those are expensive. Speaking of all that, that's funny. So this is the first Benchmade I've ever bought, and probably the last. I don't know. No, I shouldn't say that. But I bought this, and this is called an Auto Striker. I bought this because of the movie Heist with Danny DeVito. He has one, and I bought it. And of course, I think his is serrated. I didn't want the serrated one, but these things, I think off of Benchmade, they retail over $300, something like that. They're very expensive for a knife. Well, I mean, that's for me. I'm not a knife guy. I don't really know all the down to the detail, to the steel and the hardness and all that stuff. I'm just not. But I bought it because of the movie, and John Wick has some crazy Microtechs. Yes, he does. He certainly does. But this thing here, this is just. I remember I was gonna. I carried it for a little while, but then I was like, man, this thing is so expensive. I didn't want to carry it. But I bought it for the movie, not John Wick, Heist. You see, because there's a part where he thinks the gold that Gene Hackman has gotten away with is melted and put into the bars around the boat on the dock. And so Danny DeVito goes, give me a shiv. He says, pay you a gold, right? And he clicks it out and he goes over there and tries to kill the boat. Ever since then, thought that was the coolest scene with that coolest knife ever. And so, of course, the one he has is a really old school one. But actually, come after I bought it and I started looking around and looking at all the stuff in it, the Benchmade Auto Striker actually has been featured in quite a few movies. So that's really cool. So now it just kind of, I know it's kind of silly. It just sits in its case in the box. Um, when it comes to like, I guess work knives or stuff I might carry, I don't know. I just kind of, because at work I know I'm just going to be hacking apart, cardboard boxes and stuff, and I dare not do that to something like that. Uh, but anyway, the other cool thing, I guess, I just recently, I just recently got into vinyl or record albums, and I actually went and got this from Target, the Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction. Not a big, huge fan of them, but I did have the cassette tape back in the day, and the reason I bought it was, for one, it was on clearance. Plus, I've been buying a lot of vinyl lately, or albums, LPs, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a savvy person with them all, but it's red. That was cool. It's actually translucent red. Look, you can see. Well, you can't really see through it, but I thought that was cool. That it was red and had this cool graphics on it. I don't know. I got really cool. I got interested in it because one of my favorite bands released an album that was live. It was to commemorate 30 years or something like that of being together or something at the time. And it was something that they didn't release on CD or anything. And of course, I don't really know how to do all the download stuff and put it on an iPod or something like that, or all that stuff. So I really don't know how to do all that. So when it came out, it was only available on a record like that. So I said, "Wow, I really want to get it because I have all their stuff." So I bought it, and I started looking into record players. I'm expecting these things to be an atrocious amount of money, and really they're not. And of course, the quality of them depends on how well I think the stylist is going to etch in on there and do all of its things. So I'm slowly learning. It was a great band until old Axl Rose went nutty. Yeah, I do know Axl Rose kind of went nuts. Hey, Douglas Walther, welcome. um, it's so crazy how some of these the old bands that, yeah, that's why, like, some of the guys I work with, they're, I got to remember I'm about like 13, 14 years older than they are. But, like the music that they listen to, sometimes I'm just like, what the heck is that? I mean, I grew up with my parents and stuff, we with Santana, and Guns N' Roses, I guess, ZZ Top, and I'm a big fan of Pat Benatar and Joan Jett and Joan Jett and Blackhearts, Bon Jovi, and just all those old classic guys. I really want to see Bryan Adams. I really do, because I had that on cassette tape, Reckless, and I listened to that a lot. And you know what? Bryan Adams has still got the voice. That's why I want to go see him. Bon Jovi, I think he kind of, I don't know. He just doesn't have the voice anymore. Before I die, I want to get a Microtech. I don't have the courage to splurge. Just it does. And that's from 454 Packer. Welcome, 454 Packer. Um, yes, I like I said on this one, I got this out of Ace Hardware, out of all places, and actually the owner of the place was there. I guess it's a franchise thing that they each person owns a different one or a different location. But anyway, he cut me such a good deal. I think I got this thing for like $260 out the door with tax and everything, even with the Arizona near 10% tax and everything. Have you gotten into any good country music since you've been in Arizona? Actually, I do like. I've always liked. I don't know if they consider it country music or not, but I've always liked Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash is just king. I mean, how do you not like Johnny Cash? Uh, so, but yeah, I've actually always really liked Justin Moore. Ever since I heard Justin Moore, I know he's kind of a new singer, but um, I've always liked Justin Moore because he's still, I think he still like has that, he just has that, I don't know. You know, you listen to the country music, and it's like the country station, and you're like, what is this? It's just like I don't know. I just uh, like speaking of going back to the Arizona Ghost Riders crew, Dirty Dan, Dirty Dan. His idea of country music is stuff like Johnny Cash and all that. That's to me that's country music. And Johnny Cash is just I mean, he's Johnny Cash, man. He's the man in black. You just I've always liked him since just way back. And I remember when the movie came out and I was all excited to go see it, and then it was decent. It was good. But you know what? You know who I really thought should have played him? Even I'm not saying Joaquin Phoenix did a bad job or anything like that, but that other guy, I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, but I think his name is Mark Coley or something. The guy even looks like Johnny Cash, and he's done some things that are they kind of pay homage to the Man in Black, but you know there's some just he's just timeless. All right, so I got some comments here that I know I want to get to here. Gary Lewis says Gary Lewis, do you still have your M1 Garand? Yes, I do. I actually thought about selling it. I know. Just mainly because it sits around and doesn't do anything. I don't really shoot it. Hascat names a bunch of 80s bands and the old classic calls the old and classic. Well, I don't understand that comment. Sorry. Sick boy. Um, my wife went to bed. Manny, I can't read this. A night that pissed me off after buying the Microtex. Scrappy. Hey, it's Scrappy. He says, wait, what? In Arizona? Yeah. Texas Troy 78. Cash is definitely country. Yes. Gary Lewis says you still have your M1 Grand. Um, Texas Troy mainstream country sucks. BATJAC stick with the classics, and Texas Oklahoma red dirt the scene. You'll enjoy it more than the radio country. Yeah, the radio country is not really calls them old and classic. Well, unfortunately, a lot of the old timers I talked to, that's what they refer it to too. I don't know. When I was listening to it all, even my parents said, this is what we listen to. So and like I said, Johnny Cash. I mean, he's just so timeless. I think he's just so relevant in every kind of way. I remember working a job. It was it was one of my first real like steady jobs. I was actually enjoying, uh, and we were playing Johnny Cash over the radio, and this lady was like, "I'm offended by Josh." Just was like, I just remember thinking, just leave America. Jeez. But anyhow, it's like kind of it's kind of like meeting somebody that doesn't like Western movies or something. I don't know. But anyhow, I'm gonna get out of here, you guys. I really thank everybody tuning in for the chat or the live radio show. It's really cool. Like I said, there's a lot of this times when we do these live things, it's really spare the moment. I've been thinking about doing them. So anyway, I appreciate it, you guys. Thank you very much for being around and everything and being subscribed to the channel. All of the kind support that we get here, because in the end, really, all you guys are the reason why we keep doing it. I've been doing a lot of stuff with Arizona Ghost Riders and whatnot because it's a lot of fun. It's still fun to keep doing things, and so Really, in the end, you guys are the reason why the BATJAC J.W. Channel is still going. You know, is still just hanging in there, really. So uh, it's been some times where it's rocky, with the channel, just trying to keep it going, and I know a lot of my friends that, started channels right around the time I did. They're no longer doing them, or they kind of did them for a little while and they kind of gave up. And a couple of them I want to shout out. I really want to say 504 Dirt Dart, because back when I first started, he was really a key player in bringing a lot of us together. He took the time to take a lot of us channels that were really small and still small and bring us together. He used to do this thing called the Friday Fix every Friday, and he'd take small snippets from one of our videos that we recently did, and do it kind of like almost like a news update thing. Anyway, um, wherever you are, 504 Dirt Dart, bless you, man. Thank you for doing what you did, because you brought a lot of us together. The other guy I want to take time to talk about is and Scrappy. Scrappy, you go back with me since the beginning. You've been a subscriber of mine for a long time. You are another one. Make some videos, Scrappy. I want to see you making some videos again. Uh, and the gun enthusiast, my brother over there in Texas, the gun enthusiast. I know his life. He's still around. He just doesn't have the time to make videos. But like I said, support some of these channels, guys. If you like them, support them, because it's hard. It's hard to keep some of these guys going. And I'm still going because of the subscriber count. You guys keep going up. You guys keep liking the videos. So